Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Happy New Year, by the way. It is now 2023. I mean, actually, it's still December 31st when I'm filming this, but by the time you see it, it's gonna be 2023. So, Happy New Year, everyone. So today in this video, I am going to discuss my 2022 reading stats and my 2023 reading goals. This is an end of the year video I've been doing for 2 or 3 years now, just talking about the different kinds of books that I read in the year and what I'm looking forward to in the upcoming year in terms of reading. I will say, on paper, this reading year was not what I hoped it would be originally. My goal was to read 75 books in 2022 because I read 74 in 2021, and that didn't happen. I had to change my Goodreads goal to 70, and I was successfully able to read 70 books, but not the original 75 that I was hoping for. I read 2,500-ish pages less this year than I did the year before, but you know, that's okay. There was a lot of other stuff going on in my life. I got promoted to full-time at work. I have been working on draft 1 of my novel, and just I've had a lot of stuff going on personally. I've been working on myself. I've been working on my mental health, going to therapy, trying to put myself out there more and meet new people. So my reading goal, I didn't accomplish that, but I still feel like when you look at my life as a whole in 2022, I definitely think it's an upward trajectory. So I'm all in all not too upset about it. It is a little disappointing though, because ever since I joined BookTube, my reading has gone up every year, and honestly, I think in the past years, my reading was going up by like 10 books every year. So it is disappointing that this year was a bit of a setback, but you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, like, I'm just making these videos and reading these books for fun because it's something that I really enjoy doing, and there shouldn't be pressure to always read more. Like, it's not a competition. We're here because we love books and we love reading, and we shouldn't force ourselves to read because we feel like we have to meet this certain standard. Like, reading should be fun. That's it. Who cares if other people read more than you or if you read more last year than this year? All that matters is that you're having fun, right? Because that's what life's about. Life is about doing what makes you happy. I'll get off my soapbox now. So let's get into the statistics. I have crunched the numbers, and once again, I apologize if I make any math errors. I was an English major. I don't like math. But like I said, in the year 2022, I read 70 books, and if you add up the pages, I read a total of 24,364 pages in the year 2022. That is 2,550 less than I read the year before, but I mean, that's still a lot of pages. That's going on 25,000. That's a lot. Like, let's just be honest. Most people don't read that much in 1 year, so I still did a great job. My average star rating for the entire year out of 5 was 3.61 stars. Last year, my average rating was 3.65, so really very small difference there. I do feel like I probably give out 3-star ratings the most. I think I give a lot of 3 and 4 stars. I don't give that many 5 stars, and I don't give that many 2 stars, and I didn't give a single book 1 star all year long. I think really most books that I read get 3 or 4 stars. For me, a 3-star book is like, it was okay, there was nothing wrong with it, I liked it fine, didn't love it. 4 is for a book that I did really like, but maybe not like an all-time favorite book. I don't know though, sometimes I do feel like I'm too harsh when rating books. Like, a lot of times I tell myself, okay, we're not gonna give this book 5 stars because it wasn't perfect. It's not an all-time favorite. But first of all, nothing is perfect. And I also think sometimes it's hard to know if something is going to be an all-time favorite in the moment. I feel like I need to start giving more 5 stars. Like, if I read a book and I just thoroughly enjoyed it, I had a lot of fun, and it was what I would hoped it would be, why not give that book 5 stars? Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm too harsh in my ratings, but that being said, I didn't give anything 1 star, so I guess I can't be that bad. The month where I read the most was October. In that month, I read 3,100 pages. The month where I read the least was January. I really just did not get off to a strong start in 2022. That month, I read 1,120 pages, which is still good, but that was the month I read the least out of all of them. However, January, I did average a 4-star rating, which is the highest monthly average I had all year, tied with November, where my average rating was also 4 stars. So those were the 2 months where I read the most books that I really liked. And then the month where I had the lowest average rating was December. My average rating in December was 3.25. To be honest though, I don't think December was a bad reading month. I think I just had a lot of 3-star reads, so that brought the average down a little bit. And there was one book that I did give 2 stars that month, Daisy Darker, which was a disappointment. To be honest, I put this in the comments, but had I filmed my worst books of 2022 video after reading Daisy Darker would have been in that video, because God, I know everybody loved this book, but I thought it was bad. Anyways, I'm not going to go on a rant about this. You can watch my December wrap-up if you want to hear why I did not like this book, but it did not work for me, and I thought I was going to love it. It was so disappointing. Now, let's go to our genre breakdown. Now, one thing I did differently this year from last year is I made historical mystery its own category. Last year, I basically just put books into the category I thought they fit the best. So if I read something that was a mystery set in a historical setting, I just thought, well, do I think this book is more historical or more mystery? And since I read a lot of historical mysteries this year, I just decided, you know what, let's just make it its own category. There were still a few books, though, where I had to decide what category I wanted to include them with. For example, I included all the Agatha Christie books that I read under the mystery category, and I included the Sherlock Holmes books that I read under the classics category. I mean, maybe you don't think that was the right decision, but that's just what I decided to do when I was crunching the numbers. So, surprise, surprise, the genre that I read the most in 2022 was mystery. Are we shocked? No, we all saw this coming. Those are my favorite types of books to read. I read 27 mystery books. That is 38.6% of all the books that I read. Then the second most read category was my new category, historical mystery. I read 15 historical mystery books. That's 21.4% of my overall reading. Then in third, we have historical fiction. I read 12 historical fiction books. That's 17.1% of all of my reading this year. For classics, I read 8 classic books for a total of 11.4% of all books read, followed by nonfiction, which was 6 books or 8.6%, and lastly, fantasy / dystopian fiction. I read 2 of those, and that was 2.9% of my overall reading. Then if we look at the breakdown by author's gender, once again, not at all surprising, I read many more female authors than I did male authors. I read 50 books by female authors. That's a total of 71.4% of all my reading, and then I read 20 books by male authors. I'm sorry to men. I'm sorry to men. I just prefer reading books by female authors, I think, because as a woman, I think I just prefer reading books by women and that are about women, because I do have that connection there since I also identify as a woman, and I just really love female-centric stories and talking about what it's like to be a woman in our society or in past societies. So that's something that I am really interested in, and that's why I read so many female authors. Of course, there are still great male authors that I enjoy as well, but yeah, I mostly read female authors. That's just my personal preference. It is what it is. Okay, let's talk about my shame, because I also looked at how many series did I start and how many series did I continue. So I counted how many new series I started, and then I also counted every book that was a series continuation. So if I read multiple books in one series, I would have counted each book. It's not like I just counted the series as one. I don't know if I explained that right. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So like if I read 2 books in the same series, like say book 2 and book 3, I counted them as 1, 2, not as 1 because they were the same series. I think I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. So I believe one of my goals for 2022 was to continue a series I already started and not start that many new series. And I don't know if I was really successful at that because in 2022, I started 12 new book series. But some of these series, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I'm going to continue because some of them I just didn't really like the first book, or I only thought it was okay, so I don't feel the motivation to continue with the series. I'm not going to be continuing 12 series in 2023. That's not going to happen, but I definitely will be continuing some of them. Also, I made it a goal to read all of Agatha Christie's books, and she wrote a lot of series. I started the Miss Marple books and the Tommy and Tuppence books in 2022, but those books, it's okay if it takes me a while to get through those series because I feel like all the books do kind of stand on their own. The good news is I did read 14 series continuations, so I did continue more series than I started. That's a win, I guess. I just realized one thing I forgot to write down in my notes is I need to look up what was the longest and shortest book I read in 2022. I'm going to guess the longest is either Vanity Fair or Gone with the Wind. I read these for Tori's readathon. I will link her channel down below. I think Gone with the Wind was longer than Vanity Fair, and that book, ugh, it had its highs and lows, but God, it was long. It took me a lot of time to get through it. It was like 1,000 pages, so I think that's gotta be the longest. And I don't know what the shortest would have been. I guess it would have been probably either an Agatha Christie short story collection or one of the Sherlock Holmes novellas, I think that would have to be the shortest. Okay, so I am currently looking at my Goodreads year in books. I will mention sometimes the books on Goodreads are not the exact same number of pages as the specific edition that I have. I know my numbers are accurate because I keep track of them manually, but so Goodreads might be slightly off, but only by a few pages. I always try to shelve the edition that is the closest to my own. So Goodreads says the longest book I read was, no surprise, Gone with the Wind, 959 pages. That's a long book. And the shortest book I read was A Study in Scarlet, the first Sherlock Holmes novella, which Goodreads says is 123 pages. Also, according to Goodreads, my average book length in 2022 was 359 pages. That sounds about right to me. Now, the book I read that the most Goodreads users have shelved was Gone with the Wind also, because 2,064,963 people have also shelved this on Goodreads. That is a lot of people. And then the book I read this year that the least amount of people on Goodreads have shelved was How to Write Killer Historical Mysteries by Kathy Lynn Emerson. Only 353 people also shelved this book. This was a book that I discovered completely by chance. I was doing a Google search and I came across a PDF version of it. It was actually really helpful though, so I'm very glad that I discovered it. It also says the highest rated book on Goodreads that I read was Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. And I don't really agree with this. This book has a 4.29 average rating. I didn't think it was that great. So I guess I'm in the minority here because I really did not love this book. It was also a World War II book though, and as we've learned, I do not really like World War II books. So that's just my personal taste. I don't like books about the World Wars that much. Just not my favorite era of history. Then the last thing I looked at was how many of the books I read came from my physical TBR and how many came from the library. Last year it was exactly 50-50. This year, library took the win. I read 43 library books and 27 physical books from my own personal collection. I do definitely want to prioritize the things on my physical TBR. However, I'm also trying to use the library. I'm there every month, basically, multiple times a month, and I'm really only buying books if they are books the library doesn't have, or if they're just particularly beautiful editions that I really want to own. But I'm trying to use the library as much as possible. So I think that's it for my 2022 reading stats. Now let's talk about my 2023 reading goals. To be completely honest, I didn't plan these goals ahead of time. I'm just going to come up with them in the moment. I will also say I don't want to put a lot of pressure on myself with these goals because, like I said, reading is supposed to be fun. It's not a competition, and I don't want to stress. I just want to read what I want. Like, that's it. I did put out a video called 23 books I want to read in 2023, so you can go check that out for some specific books I would really like to get to. I also signed up for NetGalley in the month of December, so I want to hopefully request some ARCs on NetGalley and get to read and review those. I've actually been approved for 2 ARCs. I mentioned The Poisoner's Ring in my books I want to read in 2023 video, and just the other day, I was approved for The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. Thank you to Atria Books for giving me this advanced reader copy. This is a murder mystery book that is set on the set of a baking competition show. And I was not expecting to get approved for this ARC, but I'm so happy that I did because, as you know, I love mysteries and I also love The Great British Bake Off. I just love that show. I think it is so sweet and wholesome. So the idea of a murder taking place on the set of a baking competition, I'm obsessed. I needed this book in my life and I'm so happy to have the ARC. Thank you to the publisher for approving my request. I can't wait to read and review this one. Like I said, I do want to continue to use my local library, and I also want to read books on my physical TBR because if I'm buying books and then I just let them sit around for 3 years, by the time I finally get to them, I may not be interested in them anymore. So I think I gotta read them pretty much as soon as I buy them. Not literally like the same month, but I can't let them sit around for years and years and years. You've gotta clear that physical TBR. As I mentioned, I did make it a goal to read every Agatha Christie book because I really enjoy her mysteries. I don't want to rush through them because once I finish all of Agatha Christie's books, there's never going to be any more. I do want to savor them, but one of my goals for this year is I'm going to participate in the Read Christie 2023 challenge, and I will make an entire video talking about that once the prompts for this year's challenge are released. And I want to make some more trying to solve Agatha Christie videos this year. I think those videos are so much fun. They are some of my favorite videos to make. I did 2 so far, one for Murder at the Vicarage and one for Lord Edgware Dies. I will link those in the card. They're long, but please go watch them if you're interested. They were really fun to make and they did require a lot of work, but I just had an absolute blast. They're some of my favorite videos I've ever made. I also think another goal I want to set for myself is I want to read some of the books that intimidate me. For my TBR game, I do play my Scrabble TBR game every month, and one thing I love about that game is I have a lot of choice and freedom to pick the books that I want. But that's also a bad thing because I'm not forcing myself to read these big tomes that I do really want to read, but I'm scared to pick up. And I feel like I need a kick in the pants to start reading these massive books because a lot of them I know once I bite the bullet and read them, I'm going to like them. But it's just hard to tell yourself, okay, this month you're gonna read a 700-page book, Jackie. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I need to knock at least a few of those intimidating books off the TBR this year. I'm gonna try my best. And of course, I do want to keep reading series this year. I think it's important to stay on top of the series because if I go too long between reading, say, book 2 and book 3 or whatever, then sometimes I start to forget what's going on in the series. So I have to stay on top of my series TBR. I do want to start maybe a few new series this year because I have been very into historical mysteries, and most historical mysteries are series. There are a lot that I'm excited to try, so I probably will start a few more historical mystery series in 2023 as well. I'm also writing a historical mystery, so I think it's very important for me to read other books in that genre just to see, you know, what's out there, what are the tropes, what do people like. So it's really for science. I also really need to buy myself a new filming light for my YouTube videos this year because this one that I currently have is one that I bought for cheap a couple years ago and it's kind of falling apart. It's a little tilted, the light keeps reflecting in my glasses, so I want to get a nicer, newer one for my videos this year. That's not a reading related goal, but it is book related because it's for my channel, so I'm gonna shop around. If any of you out there have a ring light you really love, you can tell me about it in the comments and I will go check it out. Right now, the one that I have, it's the ring light and then the place to put my phone is underneath the light. I think I want to get one where it's the light and the stand for your phone is in the center of the light because I think then it won't reflect in my glasses as much. At least that's my thought. Tell me if you think that's a good idea. Any of you out there who are ring light experts? So everyone, I think that's about it for my 2022 reading stats and 2023 reading goals. Do let me know, how did your 2022 reading go and what are some of your goals for 2023? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are in the description if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a productive rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.